Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the HSP Experience. It's January 6th. Hope you're having a good year so far. Mine's going pretty good, pretty uneventful. It was a rainy Sunday night here in California, so I thought I would get another podcast out. In fact, it's been raining for like 2 days. It's amazing. I don't know what to do with myself. Actually, for an introvert, it's a great excuse to stay home and just do some major introverting. So I hope if wherever you guys are at, you're doing what you love and you're staying warm wherever you're at, because it's cold out. It's definitely the middle of winter at this point. And so I'm loving it though. Having a great weekend. I just had an HSP meetup today at this coffee shop that I've had like 15 people show up and met some new HSPs in the community. And it's pretty cool. It's so interesting how us HSPs were so similar. You know, we're all different, but we have so many similarities. You know, when you meet somebody new somewhere like at a party or someplace and you're talking to them for like 15 minutes and then you might mention like a band that you like or a sport that you play and they're like, oh, I like that too. I'm into that too. Well, when you meet other HSPs, that happens like 15 times in 15 minutes. It's just so interesting. And then after the coffee shop, we all went to this bookstore and chilled at the bookstore. And this is so HSP, right? So cool. Anyway, look for HSPs. Try to make friends with other HSPs. A lot of us are introverts, so it's hard for us to hook up. But try to find them in meetups. They're usually going to be at those meetups where there's writer meetups, musicians, creative type things. All right, a little housekeeping as always to start. The hsp.com website is still down. I haven't had a chance to work on it. I will get to that soon. It's a medium priority thing for me. It's hard to find time to do all these hobbies I have. It's super fun though. It's a good problem to have too many interests. So I'll get that up because I want to put a bunch of links, a bunch of resources out there for you guys. I come across things all the time and I think, oh man, the HS peeps would love this. And I just got to get it out there, get it done. So one of the things I'm doing so far for January, I did this last year, is I'm doing the Dry January challenge. And I started December 26th and today is the 6th. So I have, I think, 10 days now. No alcohol, and it feels pretty good. And according to my app I'm using, I have saved $113. It's pretty good. And I feel it too. I see it on my bank account. Like it's legit savings, because when I put in the little calculator how much money I spent on alcohol, I went pretty conservative. So $110 in 10 days. I don't know. Maybe that's now that I think about it, that's probably a lot. But compared to some of my friends, that's nothing. I mean, I factored in like tips and things like that. So anyway, so I'm feeling great. Yeah, it's amazing how, alcohol can really numb our minds and really slow our cognitive abilities down. The reason I do Dry January is just because, I have a lot of friends that drink. I have a lot of friends that don't drink, but the ones that drink always want to hang out. And, there's alcohol involved. And even if you drink a little bit every few days, it kind of adds up. You kind of get it. I know it affects my mood. I'll get anxiety and depression for the next couple days sometimes. And I thought, let's just, do the Dry January thing. I did it last year. The results were good. And I just want to encourage any of you guys, if there's any addictive behavior that you have or anything that you're doing a little too much of, and you might just take 30 days off. It's really good. It's a good discipline. It shows you that you can do it, because it's easy to get caught up in addiction. I read a book one time called This Naked Mind by Annie Grace, and it's about her journey into not drinking. And there's an analogy that she uses in this book, and I think she got it from Alan Carr, another author, but basically she talks about the pitcher plant. And the pitcher plant is this plant that a fly or like a bug will land in, and it'll start drinking the nectar. And it slowly, as it drinks more of the nectar, it slowly goes deeper and deeper into this pitcher plant. And eventually when it tries to fly away, it can't, it's stuck. It's too deep in the pitcher plant. It can't leave. And that's the analogy she uses for like alcohol. A lot of times we don't know we can't quit alcohol until we try, and it's too late. It has us. So be careful with that. Be careful with the drugs and the alcohol. I always tell you guys here on that. I just know that there's a lot of HSPs that use drugs and alcohol to to escape, to numb themselves, to quiet the ruminating mind. And the interesting thing to think about when you talk about quitting drugs or anything that's unhealthy, people call it recovery, right? Oh, you're in recovery. But the thing is, if you look at it, it's like, what are we in recovery from? It's interesting when you think about addiction. Let's talk about alcohol. Like, people will say like, oh, that guy has a drinking problem, or that woman, she has a drinking problem. But really, addicts don't have drinking problems or drug problems. They have thinking problems. And alcohol is a solution to that problem. The problem is not the drug. It's not the food that some people will self-medicate with food. They don't have a food addiction. They have a thinking problem. Well, they can have a food addiction, but it started as self-medicating through the substance. So when we're in recovery, like I've known people in recovery, if they just stop drinking, they're still full of anxiety, depression. And what it comes down to is really, true recovery is we have to change the way we think about ourselves, about the world. And it seems like really what happens is when someone's got good recovery, they're actually recovering from childhood trauma. That's really what we're recovering from. Or recovering from situations or things that have happened to us. That's true recovery. It's the self-work that helps to clear the mind of negative thoughts and negative people in our lives to create a life that we don't want to escape from. That's really what it is. Anybody can become an addict, but if you have a life that's so badass and awesome and you love waking up every day and you have good friends and you have love in your life, most people don't want to escape that. I don't know. I mean, addiction's a tricky thing, but think about the people in your life. Think about how much community do you have? How much socializing do you have? If you find yourself addicted to something, I heard somebody one time say, if you have to drink to be social, you're probably not a social drinker. That's kind of true. I read a quote the other day. It said, you don't get over addiction by stopping using. You recover by creating a new life where it's easier not to use. If you don't create a new life, then all the factors that brought you to your addiction will catch up with you again. It's true. And also, I saw this quote the other day. The opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. And I think that's super true. A lot of people go to AA meetings to get sober, and it's interesting. AA, they stumbled upon a solution that has a lot of psychological underpinnings. First of all, you have community, which is huge. A lot of alcoholics or drug addicts, whatever, they drink alone, right? There's nobody in their life that can relate to them. So you have instant community, and they also have this plan, the 12 steps. They actually, there's some psychological, they're very simple, but they're profound because you basically, they say we're only as sick as our secrets. And there's these steps where you take an inventory, you tell another person. And then the last step is you give it away. So you become altruistic, you get outside of yourself. And those are all things like a life coach would tell you to do. A psychologist would tell you to do. And the thing I love about AA, which I don't go to AA, but I love the concept, is it's free. And it's just, I have problems with it, but for the most part, you get what I'm saying. It's like it's a way to take people out of the isolated, addictive life that they have, and it kind of gets them out into the real world, like in baby steps. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I respect anybody going through recovery, anybody trying to change themselves, anybody trying to be the best version of themselves. So part of my point, though, is bringing this up around the addiction is never really the thing that we're addicted to. It's the trauma that we're hiding from. So if you have an addict in your life or an addict, it's easy to judge them, but it's not a moral issue. It's a mental health issue. It's a trauma issue. Yes, the things people do when they're high and drunk can be immoral, but they're sick people. And a lot of them have lots of trauma, and they deserve our empathy and our compassion. They still have to be responsible for what they do, that kind of thing. But I just think I have a real heart for hurting people, and an addict is always a person that's hurting. So if you're an addict, don't be so hard on yourself. And if you have an addict in your life, try to cut them some slack, but don't be an enabler. That just perpetuates the problem. So with that, I want to give a shout out to Justin Lane on my YouTube channel. He He's also given up alcohol for Dry January. So shout out to Justin. Good luck with that, man. Let us know how you do. Yeah, he says he gives him anxiety as well. So yeah, let us know how you do. It's good to do. I got tons of great feedback over the last couple of weeks. Thanks to everybody who's given me feedback. Glad to see people can relate to what I'm putting out there, and it's growing. Also, I want to mention that the podcast is now on Spotify, so you can get it there as well, or it's on Apple iTunes. Please review it, and if you can, give me a positive review if you like what I'm putting out here. Also, like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Okay, so our main topic tonight, I wanted to talk about the 4 agreements. I'm sure a lot of people that are listening have read this book. It's a pretty popular book in kind of self-help, spirituality circles. It's one of my favorite books. And I first came across it when I left my religion, when I used to be an evangelical Christian. I've mentioned it here before. And I left that religion, and with it went kind of my entire philosophy and worldview. So I realized I needed a new one. I needed to basically build a new philosophy. And I don't know if you guys have ever done this as an adult. I think we all are always evolving our philosophy. But the thing about the religion I was in, it was an evangelical fundamentalist Christian sect. And it was very prescriptive. They told you exactly what was right, what was wrong. You know, it was a typical conservative religion. So it was like, I call it worldview in a box. It's like, here you go. Don't question it. We're all going to think the same. If you deviate from it, you're a heretic, or you're a blasphemer, or you're a backslider. So there's a lot of group pressure, group think, pretty much that culty kind of thing where we're all sheep going in the same direction here. If you think outside the box, you got to go or keep it to yourself. So anyway, along the way, I came across this book, The 4 Agreements, and I always stuck out with me. And I thought I would share it with you guys because it's really simple principles that we can take in our life, and it helps us with just the way we think, the way we see others. And you can read the whole book, but I find that just they're so simple, these principles, you don't need to. In fact, the book is kind of a lot of extra fluff around some key truths. So the 4 agreements are, the first agreement is be impeccable with your word. The second agreement is don't take anything personally. The third agreement is don't make assumptions. And the fourth agreement is always do your best. And I'll kind of get into that a little bit. So let's talk about the first agreement. And I'm reading from an article, experiencelife.com. They kind of summarize some of these principles in the book. But it says here that the first agreement is the most important one and also the most difficult to honor. This is being impeccable with your word. It is so important that with just the first agreement, you will be able to transcend the level of existence I call heaven on earth. It's a little esoteric, but stay with me. The first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. It sounds very simple, but it's very powerful. So the idea is you go against yourself when you judge or blame yourself for anything. Being impeccable is not going against yourself. When you are impeccable, you take responsibility for your actions, but you do not judge or blame yourself. So what he's talking about there is not having guilt or shame, basically focusing on that internal conversation that we have, that self-critic we have, but also not to use our word against others, criticizing, gossiping, blaming. We also honor our commitments and only make commitments we intend to follow on. So the idea is our word is very important, right? We make promises we can't keep to ourselves and others. So be impeccable. Let your yes be yes, your no mean no, and be somebody that when other people think of you, they know like, oh, hey, man, when Steve gives his word, he's going to do it. That's huge. That's the start of anything. Self-honesty. Okay, number 2, the second agreement is don't take anything personally. This one was huge for me when I first read it because I used to take everything personally. And I didn't mean to, but I'm very sensitive and I want to be liked like everybody else. And when I was younger and I was kind of making my way through this world, I didn't understand the social hierarchy, competition, the alpha male stuff that happens, the ranking, that happens between guys in society in general, and how people will try to put you down to raise themselves up. That's a huge thing. One of the things that I really also didn't understand was I would always just believe what people said about me. Like when I was growing up and there was, this like competitive thing other boys would do, or even as I get older, even now, but now I don't take it personally anymore. But when people put you down, they say you're stupid, or you strike out, you're playing a sport and everybody gangs up on you and they make fun of you because, you might have dropped a ball or you lost the game or whatever. I would take that stuff personally, but what people are doing is they're just taking it an advantage of a situation to crush you down, to make themselves feel better, to puff themselves up. You have to understand the motive of people. So don't take anything personally. So what it says here in the article, it says, whatever happens around you, don't take it personally. If I see you on the street and say, hey, you are so stupid, without knowing you, it's not about you, it's about me. If you take it personally, then perhaps you believe you are stupid. Maybe you think to yourself, how does he know? Is he clairvoyant? Or can everyone see how stupid I am? That little last part where he talks about where sometimes we kind of agree with what people tell us. Like if we're already feeling insecure. Like I remember I was at this pool party when I was in high school, and I've always been like a fair person, that's fair skinned, and I never could get a tan. And I was always self-conscious about like going swimming, I take it off my shirt, and I was always like pasty white. And I remember this girl that I kind of liked her, right? And we're at this pool party, and I was swimming, and I was like brave enough to like jump in the pool, and everything was going good, right? I was like, all right, cool, I'm doing it. And then this girl goes, hey Steve, this is right in front of everybody, right? She goes, hey Steve. I'm like, what? She's like, did you hear about this new invention? I'm like, no, what's it called? She's like, yeah, it's called the sun. And everyone laughed. She laughed. I was mortified because I'm oversensitive. It really made an impact on me because, see, I would never, ever say that to somebody, especially I can look at somebody immediately and kind of almost see what their insecurity is. And I'm not going to take advantage of that. Like if I meet somebody who has like a stammer, a stutter, I'm not going to make fun of it. I'm instantly going to make sure I don't. Yeah, it's weird. I never got that. But obviously it wasn't an HSP. And so anyway, if something is, you already believe it about yourself, and then somebody says something about you, it's easy to take personally because you already are insecure about that. So now it's weird. I don't even care. I still don't even care. I'll go swimming. It's not even an issue. So somehow along the way, I got over it. Yeah, people could say whatever they want now. I don't even care. That's one of the cool things about being older is you just don't care as much about that kind of stuff. That's the gift of age. So I have another thing I want to add to that. Don't take anything personally. I actually took these notes years ago. Back to the don't take anything personally. I got this from this is another quote from the book. It says, nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. Yeah. So it's up to us to try to get rid of as many triggers and personal landmines. It's to be almost untouchable. Why do we care what other people think about us? The only person I really care whose opinion of me matters is my daughter, because she's looking up to me. I need to be a role model. I need to make good choices and good decisions, because she's either going to be proud of me or ashamed of me based on how I live my life. Anybody else, I don't really care. So I thought that was a good one. Don't take anything personally. All right, so number 3, the third agreement, don't make assumptions. We have the tendency to make assumptions about everything. The problem with making assumptions is that we believe they are true. We could swear they are real. We make assumptions about what others are doing or thinking. We take it personally, then we blame them and react by sending emotional poison with our word. That is why when we make assumptions, we're asking for problems. We make an assumption, we misunderstand, we take it personally, and we end up creating a whole big drama for nothing. That is very true. And I think, I know for myself as an INFP, HSP type personality, I can make assumptions based on my intuition because I trust my intuition. But sometimes it's wrong. And I have made the wrong assumption without enough data, without asking, and I have said things I regret. So it's always good not to make assumptions. Ask for more data. Ask the person, like, what did you mean by that? And we probably are right a lot of times, but get as much data as you can before you react. That's my strategy. And hopefully it'll work for you. I mean, we've all done it. This thing is just, it's all practice over time. In fact, it says here in the article, Ruiz, who wrote the book, says, the way to keep yourself from making assumptions is to ask questions. Make sure the communication is clear. If you don't understand, ask. Have the courage to ask questions until you are as clear as you can be. All right, and the fourth agreement is always do your best. Under any circumstance, always do your best. No more and no less. But keep in mind that your best is never going to be the same from moment to moment. Everything is alive and changing all the time. So your best will sometimes be high quality and other times it will not be as good. This one is really true. And this one helped me a lot too, because I think a lot of INFP types can fall into this, is the perfectionism thing, right? But if you're sick, right, and you're at work and you're just not doing that good, or I've even been like hungover. Let's say it's a Monday, I'm hungover, but I did go to work. I'm doing my best. I'm not going to sit there and beat myself up all day, but working with a hangover, it's not going to be the best, but it's the best you can do in that circumstance. It could be a flu. You could just be depressed. Like if you're depressed, be depressed and just do your best in that situation, but don't beat yourself up. This is a good one. Always do your best. And this is something we tell children. I always feel like if you work sincerely and without fear and you do your best, the outcome is almost irrelevant. As long as your conscience is clear, you're like, man, I did my best. I really tried. You're untouchable. Nobody can say anything. Even if they don't like what you did, you can really internally look in the mirror and go, man, I did my best. That is a huge one. That's a really big one to keep in mind. Yeah, always do your best. So anyway, you guys could go read that book, check it out. But those are the 4 agreements. I thought that was like 4 good principles. I remember I actually printed them out and stuck them on my refrigerator. I had them up there for years. I had to take it down though to make room for my daughter's art. She gets the refrigerator now, but I might put them back up there just so we can both read them and be reminded daily. What are they again? Be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions and always do your best. Yeah, it's good stuff. All right, before I go, I want to kind of wrap up the podcast by sharing an interesting thing that I read on the HSP subreddit, and it's called Let's Take a Collective Healing Breath Together. It's by someone named Coach Tiara, and here's what she wrote. Highly sensitive people. We are the ones that notice everything in the room, from the corner plant that needs watering to the person silently having a bad day, to the light bulb burnt out in the ceiling, to the squeaky noise the door makes when it opens, to the breeze coming in from the window, to the way the sunlight is hitting the glass of water and illuminating it so beautifully. We take in and process a lot of sensory information throughout the day. It can make life that much more tragic and beautiful at the same time. It can be a superpower, and it can also be draining and challenging. Knowing how to work with it and knowing yourself well enough to know when you need a stimulation break are keys to being happy and healthy as an HSP. If you're an HSP and you're reading this now or hearing this now, I invite you to take the collective deep breath with me. Breathe in calm, breathe out overstimulation. I think she captured the essence of high sensitivity right there, the good and the bad. So take time to breathe, go take a walk, go to nature, listen to the rain. I've been drinking a lot of hot chocolate, I'm not going to lie. It's my dry January has been pro hot chocolate 100%. All right, guys. So that's it for me. I hope everyone's having a great January. Good luck on your dry January if you're trying it or anything else you're struggling with. Remember to do your best. Try to have good self-talk and just keep struggling. You know, being an HSP is awesome, but we have to take care of ourselves. So talk to you guys later. Until next time, peace.